Hey y'all, Stacy here. Let's talk about candles. Now, if you watch my vendor and candle empties, particularly from fall to spring, you know that I get through a good clip of candles and I have a lot of brands in my collection. Today, I'm going to be talking about those brands kind of at a broader level, just to give you an idea of how I use them and what my thoughts are on them generally in one spot. They are a loved supplement to my primary wax melting fragrance game. I do use mostly 25 watt and up Scentsy Warmers, as I am a Scentsy consultant, and my warmers are typically on for 15 hours a day. I'd love it if you'd subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so we can stay in touch. I am going to go in a very particular order, and I'm going to start at the bottom with my least favorite and work my way all the way up to the top. But I do want to stress that most of these candles, including this one, are a repurchase, even though it's at the bottom of my list. Now you can see here there's no wick. That's not true. There was a wick, but it just burns not well. The actual burn time for me on this 15-ounce candle is about 17 hours. So it is 15 ounces, but I only get about 17 hours of actual burn time out of it, if that. And on this one, I didn't get close because it was a very sooty, smoky candle. So it lives under my candle lamp now. It is about $10 at Target, which is a convenient thing from an availability standpoint. But typically, when I first melt one of these candles, for about the first 30 to 45 minutes, there's a significant throw off of smoke that you can like visibly see and smell in the air. And also with this candle, I get some of those little orange embers that shoot out. So I have to be very, very careful with it. I think the pool is good when it is melting. I feel like it has a medium throw, but because that soot is almost always a medium throw for me too, and it's not a super clean burning candle, I prefer it under a candle lamp because I just like the fragrance better. This does partner melt really well for me. I loved melting it with Scentsy's, what was it, like Frosted Fantasy last year. It's just not one I'm particularly comfortable burning very often. Now, a fairly significant step up in brand to me is Goose Creek. I love the way they do their licensed partnerships. I enjoy so much all of this kind of branding, and they just know how to get me in the retro feels. Strawberry Shortcake, I had this little doll that smelled exactly like this candle. She like blew strawberry kisses, and just the details on this, so nostalgic, and they do this really, I feel like they're top tier when it comes to that. Wick placement looks great, but the wicks are really, I think, the problem for me, and I don't know what is up with them. But I get the same embers that I get off of the Threshold candle a majority of the time. And you can see they have mushrooming, but all of them do. I don't particularly get puny wicks with this particular candle brand often. I do sometimes, but it's not a regular occurrence. But almost always, that first 20 to 30 minutes of a burn, it is smoky, visibly smoky, and you've got those embers. And then to me, the burn clears up, but you can still see some of that sooting coming off the candle, and occasionally I'll see an ember. And what I will say is they say that you should burn these for 3 to 4 hours. But to me, with Goose Creek, 3 is the maximum. At 3 hours, I typically go from seeing just an occasional bit of smoke or sooting off the candle to seeing and smelling quite a lot of it. So it really impacts the fragrance throw after that 3 hour mark. And I do still like to burn this candle, but it does, I have a couple of, especially of this strawberry shortcake one. And man, I do tend to put it under my candle lamp. And I will also say, after you get past the midway point of this candle, I also feel like, for me personally, it's better under a candle lamp because it just gets more and more smoky as it goes. It has a sweet spot. But again, I think their vessels are so adorable. The glass is not anything particularly heavy or special, but I feel like the way that they brand, and at least in the collections that I've gotten, like I haven't gotten a lot of their licensed products, but I loved strawberry shortcake as a child, and the way that this scent, and also like the blueberry muffin scent, it really, it's so nostalgic. Like they did the whole thing, like the scent matches the label. But Goose Creek, I only get about 26 hours of burning. It's a 14.5 ounce jar, and they're like $25.50 each. Kringle is the next candle up on my list that I do purchase and repurchase. Now, ice cream sandwiches, which is on the left, is not one that is my favorite. And Jelly Donut is on the right here, and it's one of my absolute favorite candles ever. So that's one of the things to me about Kringle is it is very variable, if you will. Now, I do purchase 3 different sizes. The first size is this large 2 wick, and it's 22 ounces. For me, I get about 79 hours of burn time, and they are $31. Now, you can see here the wicks do get some of that mushrooming, and I know the wax looks messy, kind of like the pool is uneven, and sometimes the pool is uneven, but actually both of these candles are doing pretty darn well. However, again, ice cream sandwiches, I cannot pick that scent up. Wick placement is also a problem sometimes with Kringle for me, especially going all the way down these long jar candles. But Jelly Donut is one of my absolute favorites. Like the throw is amazing, and I don't mean like my favorite Kringle candle, I mean like one of my favorite candles. And that's the thing about this brand to me. It's like if it is good, it is so very good. It is like top tier. But the majority of what I get is going to be middle of the road, and I always smell the wick from the beginning. I do experience significantly less sooting on any crinkle candle that I'm melting than like a Goose Creek or a Threshold, but it always exists. Now, I will also say that it gets smokier and less fragrant at both the top and the bottom of all of these tower style candles. So the large 22 ounce that this one is, and then there's also a medium 14 ounce that goes for about 62 hours for me. That one's $27. And that medium size, I just feel like for me, I smell the wick for more of the burn, and that's just experiential for me. Now, probably my favorite is the 3 wick size, and that surprises me, but it's got 3 wicks here, and I just find the placement is, it tends to be better. I still smell the wick for sure, but I feel like the throw of the scent inside is a little bit better. Now, my actual burn time hours that I typically get from this is right around 40 hours, so it is less burn time, but I think better throw, and it's $26 for this version of these candles. Now, the other thing that I am going to say about Kringle in general is that I do like their attention to detail on their vessels, their labels, and sometimes these are just, again, top tier scents. And some of the scents do a great job partner melting, but I feel like it's kind of extremes. It's like either exceptionally good or near to non existent as far as throw. So it's like a land of extremes in that way. And that can make it really hard to purchase and to know what to get. And I will say, like, I do feel like the wicks are very consistent in how they perform. So they're constantly there. They do have some sooting and some smoke kind of fragrance that emits, but it's consistent in every iteration. And I think the wax pool is typically nice and even. They also have lots of fragrances that, when they do work, partner melt beautifully. And I think their vessels are gorgeous. One of the biggest drawbacks to me, though, is availability of these candles. So back to the kind of extremes of extreme not performance and extreme performance, they generate a lot of FOMO around like their Halloween, Christmas, and reserve launches. And these things are designed to sell out typically within the first day or two. And they often do not restock. They say they will try, but they do not do it. So the best strategy is probably to get a daylight and see if it works for you. But if it's one of these launch scents, you're probably going to miss it if you do that. And that's a bummer. Now, I currently do not have a Yankee candle on hand, but I melt them every year, particularly in November. I always get the cranberry chutney candle because my grandmother used to melt it. I typically get the 2 wick signature, which for me, that's a 20 ounce candle. It's right around $31. And I get about 62 hours of melt time. So I think that's great melt time. I feel like it pools beautifully, and the throw is great. Now, I don't only melt that one scent. I also really love a couple of their balsam scents and what is it, pumpkin banana scone. That's one of my favorites. I feel like the throw is typically very good, and they partner melt well. Their vessels are nice, and the availability is amazing. I will say with wicks, I rate them higher than the Kringle candles because I don't get the consistent wick smell. I feel like they soot probably about the same, but and they probably smoke about the same. But when it comes to like that actual smell of the wick, it's significantly less to me. My third favorite candle is the 3-wick Bath and Body Works. Now, I am excluding the single wick Bath and Body Works. I do have one single wick that I get really great performance out of, and that's the orange and chocolate one, but by and large, what I'm talking about is the 3-wick candles. Now, these are 14.5 ounces. I do only get 28 hours of burn time, but I can melt these year round, and I feel like I get pretty consistent performance. I brought this Tiki Beach to show you that, like, this one is actually struggling a bit with one or two of the wicks, and it's taking a little nurturing. So that does still happen sometimes to me with Bath and Body Works, but it's not as frequent as certainly it was in the past. And I don't typically get ones that do not throw for me. I feel like the wax pool does pool out really fast with my Bath and Body Works candles, and it is a nice consistent pool going all the way down. Now, that is reflected in the speed with which the candles themselves burn. I only get about 28 hours, but most of the time I'm only smelling that wick like at the very beginning and the very end of the melt. Now, I do say most of the time because I want to authenticity check. This is pink lavender and espresso. If you watch my empties, you see it a lot. Most of the time, I get a very clean burn out of this. And this one, about halfway through, despite only melting it for 4 hours and trimming the wicks and doing all of that stuff, this one did get a little stiff for me. So it's destined for a candle lamp too. So even in some of my favorite scents and some of my favorite brands, I do experience challenges with them. One of the things with Bath and Body Works is if that had happened early in the melt, I could have taken that to my store, and I feel like their in-store customer service is second to none. It's really great, at least in my local area. Their online customer service and their call center is abysmal and very hard to get through to. But when I go into the store, I get really great service, and I love that I can do that. And I do love their candle sales. I do think, though, that the candle sales are a little bit overhyped. Because I feel like a $13 or a $14 price point is actually where this candle should be, given that it's only 28 hours of performance. That's about half the distance of candles that I would say are around the $25 to $35 mark, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But that tends to be when I shop for these, when they're on sale, and always looking for coupons. I will also say I don't find their rewards very rewarding. They are super fun to collect, and as someone who's signed up as their member, like, we just had 3 times rewards, but their rewards are limited to $18.95, and that is just out of reach of, I mean, it's significantly out of reach for a 3-wick candle. And even, for example, when the candles are on sale for $13.95, you cannot use one of those rewards to get the $13.95 candle because they have valued the candle at $24.99. So, as someone who likes to get candles, I'm typically stuck getting stuff that I really didn't want and doesn't work for me. So, I'm not a huge fan of their rewards. Now, my second favorite candle is Voluspa. I hope I'm saying that right. I have 2 different Voluspa candles that I love to melt. And surprising probably to a lot of folks, this is a single wick candle, and that's pretty much all that I order from Voluspa. I get great performance. And look at these cute, nice vessels. Like, they are so beautiful. I do want to call your attention to the wick here. This is not just a glued single wick. There's like a brace all the way around the bottom. And I think that's part of just the overall success of the burning of this candle. These candles are only 9 ounces and they are $35. However, I get 48 hours of burn time for me. And, like, for me, these candles, both of them, I can set them on the stove in my kitchen and get a nice medium throw. Now, what I will say is when it comes to the Goji Taraka Orange, this red candle that's over here, it doesn't partner melt very well. Like, it gets lost in the space if I'm melting anything else, but it beautifully fills the space when it's on its own. But Foraged Wildberry, that's here in this pink vessel, is a champion kind of partner melter. I love melting it while I've got Snowberry going on, either in the space or in adjacent spaces with it. It also does great with lots of tea melts and other tea candles, and I love melting it alongside of London Fog. It's just a beautiful blender. So with this, again, it's only 9 ounces. I get 48 hours of burn time. The wicks, though, here, I don't smell the wicks. There's almost no soot that I see. It's a nice medium throw typically in the space. The pool is beautiful, complete, and clean. And I love the pace at which these candles melt. So it's just 9 ounces, but again, I get 48 hours, which is impressive to me. I will say these don't come with lids, which is a drawback for me, but the vessel itself is so beautiful. My reigning favorite candle is the Homeworks 4-wick candles, and I do mean all the way up to 50 ounces. I have the 50-ounce 4-wick in Harvest Leaves, and it performs just as consistently as these smaller 18 ounces. Yes, these are 18 ounces. Now, for me, the actual burn time that I get is right at 52 hours. Now, I will say these are typically $30, and sometimes they may have end of season sales and things like that. But it can be hard to get some of these scents if you don't shop at the beginning of the season. These are just very popular, like pumpkin cold brew and cinnamon vanilla. I've never found any of those in like a TJ Maxx, but you can find these. Like I have found French toast at a TJ Maxx, and one time my beloved iced tea, which Homeworks has my favorite iced tea scent. I typically have really good luck with wick placement. It's just usually very well spaced. And as a result of that, you get a nice, beautiful wax pool. Now, wax pools with Homeworks to me sometimes do need a little bit of nurturing, and I'm not sure why. It always surprises me when I end up with one that needs a little extra nurturing with the wax pool. This is an example of one that did. I'm not sure if you can really see, but I did have to do some maintenance to help that pull out completely on this far side. But regardless of that, it's still a beautiful throwing candle, and it's one of my favorites that I stock up on every like harvest and holiday season. The other thing that I'm going to say is just the consistency of throw is one of the best. In fact, I think it is the best. It's just, I have not really gotten a Homeworks candle that I felt like did not fill the space. And so the pool may be a little struggling. Every now and then I struggle with a wick, but it's not often. And because the throw is so good and the fragrance is so well blended and pronounced, they partner melt beautifully. Homeworks is just a brand that has been reliable in my home for a while, and so it still takes this top spot for now. I do also want to quickly address the candle that did not make the list that may surprise you, the Scentsy candle. I hope you had the chance to watch my burn review, both the first burn and the final burn, with my total performance review of this candle. Overall, I had a really great experience with it. So you may be wondering, why isn't it on this list? And the reality for me is it's not on the list simply because I've only melted Camp Scentsy in a candle. I have no other experience. If I had been just judging Jelly Donut from Kringle against all of my Homeworks candle, it may have won. So I need more experience before I can give it a total ranking. What I can do is think on a scent by scent level and what might be candles that I have that are of comparable performance. And I think I have two that I would put in the same wheelhouse of performance that I'd love to share with you. Now, as a quick reminder, the Scentsy candle is $30, 12 ounces, gave me 45 hours of some of the cleanest burn at a medium throw that I have ever experienced. The first candle that I saw as similar does not have the clean burn, but it does have the burn time that is pretty close. This is Crinkle Cookies from Kringle Candles, and I get 40 hours of burn time out of it. And that's pretty good. It does retail for $26, 14 ounces, and the throw is also contemporary. The second is a tiny little single wick that's 9 ounces, retailing for $35, but I get 48 hours out of this, and it is the cleanest burn that I have experienced in a candle. So it holds that top spot still for me for clean burn, but I feel like my Scentsy candle is a close second. Now, all three of these seem very, very different on the surface. They range from 9 ounces to 14 ounces. They are a 1, 2, and 3 wick candle. But for me, when you think about the Valespa candle, it's the smallest one and it gives me the longest burn time at 48 hours. The Scentsy candle gives me 45 hours, and the Kringle candle gives me 40 hours. So very similar there. When I think about the throw of the wax itself, these are all different scent notes, but the reality of each of these fragrances is that they fill a room and they do so well on their own. Very room filling. And sometimes they can partner melt, but they don't always partner melt. You have to kind of cater any additional scents that you are having going on in the background to ensure that they're soft enough to not overtake these particular fragrances. Even though I still don't know where overall these new Scentsy candles are going to fit in my burn strategy, and I know for a fact that I'm still going to love and burn the candles that I have always loved, I'm very excited about the company that it's keeping because these are some of my favorite candles, and I do feel like the cleanliness of the burn is truly only second to one in my collection, and that makes me pretty happy. So I'd love to hear in the comments below, what are your favorite candles, and do you burn them, or are you a candle crocker or a candle lamper? Thanks for watching.